I am Eric Bruno, but the best way to think of me relative to Verizon is I'm the Fios guy. So responsibility for Fios TV, for Fios Internet. Now, I'm hopeful at TelcoTV that people are familiar with Fios, right? That's our pay TV service and Internet access service delivered over an all-fiber network. We are currently closing in on about 4 million subscribers. And we have a closet full of J.D. Power Awards and PC Magazine Awards that we're really proud of. And before we can really get into what I want to cover, there's some obligatory things. There's our safe harbor statement and our proprietary statement. 2 points on the safe harbor statement. Number one, please do not trade stocks, bonds, soybeans, cattle, anything based on what you see in the presentation today. And if you do, you're on your own. Second thing, relative to proprietary, obviously this is intended for this particular audience, so we're hoping that you do not broadcast it to the far ends of the Internet. Now, that being said, and speaking of the far ends of the Internet, I will start with the way I like to start a presentation, a blinding insight into the obvious. The digital migration is underway. People, stay in your seats. Stay calm. So I'm sure as you look at it, it's like, well, yeah, got it. It's been underway for about 30 years. I think the thing that's unique about what we're seeing today is actually a confluence of incredibly capable and incredibly intelligent IP networks and equally capable and equally intelligent IP devices. And as they come together, that allows us to basically do pretty much anything we want, anywhere we want, anytime we want. From a Verizon perspective, we'd call that the borderless lifestyle. And one of the biggest elements of that borderless lifestyle is TV. People definitely want TV without borders. And so when you say that's what people want, is there the ability to deliver it? And I think there are a couple of questions you have to ask, right? The first question is, although they're great devices and although they're great networks, are people going to use them? The second thing is, if they're going to use them, are they going to use them to watch TV? And the third thing is, if they're going to use them to watch TV, what's going to happen to our traditional TV business? So that's where we'll get started. So first question, survey says yes. We're going to have 184 million Americans by the year 2015 who are regularly using at least 2 IP-connected devices. So in terms of critical mass, I think the answer there is yes. So we know they've got devices. They know they're connected to networks. We know they're using them. Are they going to watch TV? Answer, I think, is intuitive, obviously, but also yes. Right? So when you look at this, there are 2 categories here. There's nomadic broadband users, right? Folks who wander the digital wasteland looking for an oasis of Wi-Fi. And once they get there, 154 million by the end of 2015 will be, among other things, looking at broadband video. Right? There are also going to be at least, and from a Verizon perspective we think it's more, 77 million mobile broadband video users who will be using the 3G or 4G capabilities innate in their tablets and smartphone to connect to a cellular provider and access mobile video that way. So we've got devices, we've got people watching video, and then the next key question is, so what does that mean for the traditional linear business? What does that mean for traditional television? And what it means is, first and foremost, the viewing experience is going to fragment. And I think that's also intuitively obvious to a lot of us, especially since most of the folks in this room are probably among those that have iPads and smart devices, right? And today we know that already 69% of folks are at least viewing some form of video on their PCs. 33% are looking on their smartphones and tablets. And we also know, conversely, that 24% are actually looking at internet content on their TV. So we've got the sense that the viewing experience is going to fragment. But here's the good news. The good news is that that's promoting engagement. The most important word on this slide is supplemental. Because what we continue to see year over year is engagement with pure traditional linear TV continues to grow. You know, from the low to mid 30s to the mid to upper 30s. From Verizon's experience with Fios, we actually have grown beyond 40 hours a week in terms of overall engagement, and we continue to see that going forward, which is good, right? Because fragmentation relative to the viewing experience is only going to increase. So I said previously that by 2015, the average American is going to regularly use 2 IP-connected devices. In reality, they'll have access to at least 7. Now, one of the things, it's sort of frightening, but if you want to do this, before I came down here, I undertook my own self-assessment and inventory of my house to say, well, How many IP-connected devices do I have in my home? And I live there with my wife and 3 daughters, so there's a total of 5 of us. You know, the 3 guinea pigs, the 2 dogs, the cat and the turtle do not yet use IP-connected devices, so we can safely remove them from the test audience, right? And between the 5 of us, we actually have 21 IP-connected devices today. 4 set-top boxes, 4 smartphones, and we've got 3 iPads, 3 iPad touches, 4 laptops, 2 Zunes, actually 1 Zune, 2 Kindles, and when you add it all up, it's just a huge amount of bandwidth that's being consumed. It's just an inordinate number of devices. So what we expect to see is 7 is going to actually be higher. But as I said before, from a fragmentation perspective, that's okay, because what we've seen to date is that fragmentation is actually promoting engagement, not taking away from it. So what that means relative to television is that basically it's another app. It's like email, or Angry Birds for that matter. And the great thing about TV being an application is that now it can ride on a huge array of devices and OSs. It's much more convenient. It's much more accessible. But with that, there comes some challenges, especially from the pay TV perspective, right? Because, when you look at the pay TV track record, over the last decade or so, not always the first innovation, and sometimes, quite honestly, we've honked things up. Right? We have not necessarily always made the best decisions when it comes to innovation, when it comes to the customer experience. Now, the good news is I look at my brothers and sisters in the OTT world. We are not alone. Right? Nobody is immune to honking things up. So from a pay TV perspective, when we look at what we could really mess up, it falls into a couple of categories. The first is video quality, right? Because now we're going to a range of video devices. They've got different levels of processing capability. They're not necessarily connected to a quality of service controlled network. So that's one area. Now, I honestly think, as I look across the industry, that everybody's got a pretty good handle on it. I think that between the types of networks that we have, the ability to distribute content, adaptive streaming, and the overall quality of the devices themselves, right? Your typical smartphone is a lot smarter than your typical set-top box. I don't think that video quality, if people pay attention to it, is going to be an issue. I think the real risk from a pay TV standpoint is on consistency of experience. I think there's a real risk here that device count could become a lot like title count was for VOD. Well, I've got 10,000 VOD titles. Well, that's great. I've got 20. I've got 25. Well, I've got 30. I've got 35. Well, no, I've got 40. Well, I've got 50. Right? And if 10,000 of those are self-help videos and sock puppet videos, all in HD, right, to add to the HD count, we haven't really increased the quality or the value for our consumers. And I think the real risk that we've got is basically trying to get on as many devices as possible and leaving the quality of the user experience in terms of the interface, in terms of the ability to navigate, leaving that behind. And if you think through it, consistency of that user interface is incredibly important. It's important because, number one, that's what our customers want. It's important, number two, because if they don't get it, they won't engage. Right? If they go to look for a television experience on their iPad, and it's incredibly different than what they see on their set-top box, and then it's different again when they look on their Android device, they are simply not going to engage. And the benefit of anywhere, anytime, anywhere is going to be lost because people like to stick with what they know. Now, the other thing beyond that is from a pay TV standpoint, this is one of the areas as service providers where we can really provide differentiation. And the way we can do that is providing a consistent experience, one where you recognize the look and the feel, you recognize the navigation, right? And so whether you're accessing it from an Xbox in your playroom, a set-top box in a guest room, a Blu-ray player in your bedroom, whether you're looking at it on your tablet or your handset, you recognize what it is. And what that enables for our customers is choice. Right? They don't have to be bound to a particular device manufacturer. Right? They don't have to be bound by a particular gaming console. More importantly, they don't have to be bound, unless they so choose, by a particular OS. They can make the decisions they want about the CE that they want without having to worry about that user experience. And as pay TV providers and as service providers, I think this is one of the most important things that we can think about, particularly as we move TV beyond the set-top box and into the borderless lifestyle. Now, that being said, the other benefit that we get is now that we've got all these different engagements, all these different devices, and now that they're all powered by IP, there's a huge opportunity for interactivity. And I think one of the panelists said it earlier. I guess Verizon falls into the IP guys, right? We're latecomers to the market. So every set-top box that we've deployed actually not only has a feed from QAM for the video signal, it's also got a pure IP feed. So we've built interactive IP capabilities into our set-top boxes from day one. So we've got a huge capability to do self-help. And in fact, so far this year, we've deflected over 300,000 calls from our call centers. Right? We've had over 1 million self-help sessions, people doing everything from rebooting a set-top box to programming a new remote for a new TV that they bought, which offsets a tremendous amount of cost. We've had a lot of engagement with our widgets platform, right? And widgets matter. And it's the continuity of the engagement. So one of the things we did is we launched Facebook. And everybody looked at us and said, why would you put Facebook on TV? Nobody's going to use a clunky remote to try and update their Facebook page. And the answer is, of course not. Nobody's going to do that. But Facebook is also the largest repository of photos on the planet. People are going to look at photos. And if you've ever had that experience where you're in your living room or in your kitchen all huddled around a little laptop while somebody's showing family vacation photos and you got like 10 or 15 of your friends or relatives crowded around, hoping that none really had that big garlic meal the night before because you got about 30 pictures you want to show, the ability to do that sitting on your living room couch while the pictures are streamed to your 40-inch television set or your 50-inch television set is a lot nicer. And in fact, since we've launched Facebook, we've had over 20 million page views through the system. So we think that engagement, we think the self-help is key. But the other piece, which is, I think, the most telling statistic of all, is that in the Fios TV universe, 99%, a full 99%, of all of our upsell transactions, so that could be somebody signing up for NFL Red Zone or MLB Extra Innings, could be somebody signing up for HBO or Cinemax, 99% of those transactions occur through our IMG. They never touch a call center, right? It's just instantly provisioned through the IMG. And it's a great opportunity to merchandise because when somebody lands on HBO, they don't get an 800 number that says go to HBO. They don't even get a little display ad. They actually land in a full-fledged portal that gives them samples of what they can see. It explains the benefits of HBO, and then it allows them to sign up instantly. So that value of interactivity is really important, but you can't get to it unless customers know where to find it. Unless you have a consistent user experience, the value of that interactivity is mitigated. Now, the other thing that's particularly exciting to service providers about IP, and many of you might have had this conversation, I'd like to have personal profiles on a set-top box. Well, that's incredibly difficult, right? First of all, there are privacy issues. There's difficulty because set-top boxes aren't necessarily the smartest kids on the block. They're really, really smart in some cases, but they don't really compare to a smartphone or to a tablet in terms of processing power. So what the smartphones and tablets enable us to do is create personalization immediately. Right, so if you've got DVR Manager, you've got the ability to change channels like we do from a Fios remote perspective. You can set your own favorites. These tablets, these smartphones actually enable personalization for you without having to make big changes to infrastructure, big changes to your set-top boxes or anything else. Now, one of the first steps we took in terms of enabling ourselves relative to eliminating borders in the borderless lifestyle, and we've talked about this, is we're actually launching Fios linear channels, so not VOD to start, but to start with linear channels onto the Xbox. We think that's a great way to begin to eliminate borders within the house. We think Xbox is a fantastic platform, and we're really happy to have that partnership as our first, which will ultimately be among many in the CE space. So we think it's a natural fit. One of the things that we paid a lot of attention to was to make sure that the Fios application on the Xbox, number one, blended well with the Xbox, so people familiar with that experience would be familiar with this, but also to make sure that when they got into the Fios television app, the look, the feel, the navigation was the same. So there actually is on our latest version of IMG, which is our interactive media guide, which has now been launched all through Verizon territory with the exception of New York, there actually is a program guide that looks just like this. Right, so you can see the channel, you can see the thumbnail of what's going on the channel, you can see what's happening for the rest of the evening. So we thought that consistency was really, really important. Now, the other thing that we've done in terms of breaking down borders within the house, and that's the innovation award we got, is home control. And the key takeaway from home control is that this is not energy management. What we've come up with is a lifestyle application. So this is not home energy management. This is not a managed security service, right? This is a lifestyle service that basically enables you to do a lot of things that you do every day anyway, right? You turn lights on and off. You turn the thermostat up and down. You lock and unlock doors. You check on the kids. You check on the pets. All of these things require you to get up. They require you to walk around the house. They require you to do a variety of different things. What we've simply done is actually made it possible to do all of those things from one place, that one place being a couch, and that couch being capable of being anywhere, not just in the house, but in the country. So when we look at it, the key differentiator that we see is that we are absolutely not giving somebody something else to do. We're not giving you a tablet to monitor your home energy management. We're not giving you something, other device to look at. We're basically saying, these are things you do already. Now you can do them from your smartphone, you can do them from your PC, or you can do them from your television using your television remote. And the price point that you might just have seen, it's $9.99, right? So it's a very simple application in terms of understanding the value proposition, and there's equipment that you can buy to basically drive that. So we broke it down into a couple of really simple kits, a home monitoring kit that comes with a couple of cameras, a home energy management kit that comes with some light modules and a home energy reader, and then customers can add their own after that. The experience itself, we wanted to make sure is multi-screen. So there's a PC function, right, from a PC standpoint, and what you'll see as we go through this dashboard is that it's consistent as you go from PC as to mobile app, and then as you go to television. And essentially, what it allows you to do from an internet perspective is log on, you can check your cameras, you can check the status of your devices, you can see down at the bottom, you can look at your front door, you can look at your back door, you could check your thermostats, right? And this is also a place, the internet, where we envision customers setting up modes, which is how we combine a lot of these functions into one, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the internet experience is designed to be lean forward. You can also, if you're interested, go in, because we do have an energy reader. You can go in and understand what your energy consumption is, and you can understand what your carbon footprint is, but that's not the emphasis. The emphasis is just taking a bunch of things that are actually pretty annoying that you do every day and make them easier, faster, and less annoying. From a smartphone perspective, we've got the same application, the same sets of categories, but it's geared to be more transactional, right? Your smartphone transactions are going to be more like, let me check in and see what's going on if I've got an indoor camera or an outdoor camera. Oh, did I remember to turn the thermostat up or down? I've got a cleaning crew coming in, so I want to make sure that I unlock the door for them and then lock it behind them after they've gone. Right, so those are the functions that we've designed into the mobility side of the house. But once again, the look, the feel are consistent. The rule from a design principle is learn one screen and learn them all. Now, my favorite part of this actually is we've also integrated all of this into Fios TV. Right, so you can actually be sitting in the bedroom, and at my house, one of the challenges that we have is after remodeling and installing untold thousands of dollars of recessed lighting, my beloved spouse came to the conclusion that it was glaring and oppressive and we really needed more floor lamps. Now, I could have been bitter and angry, but no, I recognize that, in fact, it'll be great for the resale value. Somebody else may not find all of our recessed lighting glaring and oppressive. But now we have a multitude of floor lamps scattered strategically all over the house, which, of course, nobody but me is actually assigned to turning off. Everybody can turn them on. Everybody in my family has the capability to turn those floor lamps on. I apparently am the only one who can turn them off. And they are scattered to the four ends of the house, right? One, two, always in match sets. Two over here, two in the middle, two at the far end. Every night I get up, I go downstairs. At least I had to. Turn two off. Turn another two off. Turn the third two off. Now, I actually have a mode that says lights on and lights off. The night I'm ready to go to sleep, I hit lights out, all those floor lamps, off they go, right? And I can do that all while I'm watching SportsCenter. So it actually is like a dream come true. Now, the other thing relative to this particular view, and it applies to TV as well, is that historically my wife and I have had a fundamental, not marriage-threatening, but a very significant disagreement as to the appropriate level of supervision my 9-year-old daughter requires while she rides her scooter in our driveway, right? My wife has the belief that somebody needs to be sitting in an Adirondack chair no more than 10 to 15 yards away, watching every single revolution of the scooter up and down, which, by the way, can go on for at least an hour. She draws roads on the driveway with chalk. And by the way, it's not like we live on a highway, right? We live in a neighborhood that a car comes by maybe twice a day. You're surprised, and you always know who's driving it. But we've got the obstacle course set up. My wife feels intense parental supervision is required. I believe that if a college football game or basketball game is going on, I can actually be sitting in the family room with the window open so I can hear the screaming if anything goes really wrong. That's been a fundamental disconnect for quite some time until home control had an IP camera conveniently installed in my driveway, and now I can actually picture-in-picture watch my beautiful daughter with the full level of parental and supervision as my wife is intended while still not missing my college football game or college basketball game. Now, this may not, in fact, be what we want to be enabling American society to do, basically shirk on parental responsibilities while watching more TV, but it's one of the things that we want to do. And I think if we're going to shirk on our parental responsibilities, we might as well do it with a clear eye on what we're doing. So the takeaway is that this really does provide a lifestyle enhancement, right? The stuff that you were normally going to do, now you can do from a single place. So as we move forward, I also talked about mode selection, right? And this is where we've got a variety of devices connected: door locks, window sensors, light modules, right? This is where you can actually go in and create a mode. You can turn off everything. You can set a vacation mode that lowers your thermostats or raises your thermostats as the time may require. You can have an after-school mode that triggers when somebody walks in the door from school. So the other power that this brings is, once again, I think this also is inherent from a service provider standpoint, is that the devices we're talking about are from multiple manufacturers, right? So we've got locks and items from Ingersoll Rand, from Aeon Labs, from Motorola. And once again, it's bringing these multiple devices together into a common interface with a consistent experience that really provides value and is one of the very few things that service providers can do that individual manufacturers can't do and that even individual OS providers can't do. Right? I mean, these are some of the things that become really, really important in terms of how we differentiate. And obviously, you can use those modes and drive them from your mobile experience as well. So the final thing that I'll talk about here is how do you then avoid the last sort of challenge that I think a service provider faces, which is application proliferation. Right? From a Verizon standpoint, the issue that we had is, as I looked at our mobile marketplace, we actually had 4, 5, 6 different mobile applications. And in fact, one of the things we realized is we had one for Fios Digital Voice, which allowed you to have visual voicemail and check your voicemail. We had a Fios Remote, which allowed you to manage your DVR and also use your iPad or your tablet or your handset as remote control. You could check your account. We had Home Control. We had Media Manager, which allowed you to look at our Flex View, which is multi-screen VOD, as well as your own personal content. We had our own proliferation of applications right within Verizon. So the final thing that we wanted to do relative to Fios is to actually bring those applications together. And the same principle applied. We wanted to aggregate them so we could enable discovery, so we could enable cross-sell, but specifically what we wanted to do is make this usable. So what we didn't want to do is provide a collection of icons. What we wanted to be able to do is bring people into a place where, number one, we could tell them a little bit what was going on within Fios and the experience. But then we ask them one simple question: what do you want to do? What do you want to do today? Do you want to control your home? Do you want to watch TV, movies everywhere? Do you want to manage your music or your photos? And make it simple, make it accessible. Now what happens is, as they move through this menu, they'll drop into the bigger applications. They'll drop into Media Manager. They may drop into Fios Remote. But when they get there, one of the interesting things is that they'll always be able to get back. Right? So down at the bottom of the application, they have shortcuts, so they can go to any full-fledged application that they want to. They can always get back to My Fios. And when they do drill down, for example, if they said, I want to manage my DVR, they'll drill down right into the point of the DVR management application that allows them to do that. So they're not always having to start at the top of the app. And also, if they're in the middle of one app, they can conveniently go to the other. They can get back to where they came from, or they can go back to home. So one of the things we also think is really important from a service provider standpoint is that we're able to deliver that experience as well.
The growth of smartphones has been
we'll give you a quick view.
Explosive, and Verizon's been a part of it since day one, with a portfolio of mobile apps that's grown to meet the
we will
needs
do this
of
without
millions
video.
Of users on many different devices.
Cue the
and
video.
platforms.
So you know what? I think, since I'm basically out of time, it appears we may have a slight technical challenge, as the dark screens may indicate. We'll pass on that particular video because I want to answer a question or two if we've got any. But basically, that's the point. As we look at this, sort of sum up, is there are a couple things. We think that the borderless lifestyle is right here. It's right now. We think that as service providers, as pay TV providers, we've got a great opportunity to differentiate. Right? And if we're going to do it, what we've got to do is make sure that we free TV to follow our customers anywhere they want to go, that we maintain that video quality, that we maintain the consistency of the user experience, and that as we grow beyond TV, whether it's home control, whether it's online backup and storage, whether it's security, we maintain that consistency of navigation, and we give people choice. I think as pay TV providers, as long as we're enabling the content aggregation that we've done for 20 or 30 years, and we're providing our customers choice, they'll continue to stay engaged with the service, and those services will continue to grow. So with that, I will end my comments. And what I don't know is if we have any time for questions or not. Or if anybody can tell me if we have time for questions or not. Maybe going once? Going twice?
Okay.
Questions?
All right.
Or are we done?
No? Well, come on. Let's take some questions.
Sure.
You got a question or two here? Bring up the house lights. There we go.
So you made some excellent points in terms of how all these mobile devices can enrich the pay TV experience. But where is Verizon going with the whole OTT model? I mean, do you have a position there right now? Is it something that you can talk about?
So, so two things. Number one, we think OTT is important, and we're looking at it in two ways. From a Fios TV perspective, we're looking at doing things to inoculate ourselves against it. Right? That's why you see things like Facebook. That's why you see things like YouTube that have already been engaged, that have been designed into the service to drive that engagement. We also look at OTT as an opportunity. Right now, Verizon serves roughly a third of the country. There's 2/3 of the country that we don't serve. So we don't have anything to announce, but we're not looking at that as something to run away from. We've got to be prepared for it in territory and then evaluate what may or may not make sense out. Maybe take one more question if there is one, and then we can wrap.
Well, I've got a question for you.
Excellent.
Okay, so the home monitoring and the home control,
Yes.
Is that something you're also going to be offering outside the Verizon footprint?
So thank you very much, because I was supposed to say that and I forgot.
Oh, okay.
So right now, we've made a business decision to only offer home monitoring and control with Verizon broadband. So it works not just with Fios, but with our DSL product as well. The way we built the platform, though, is it's broadband agnostic. So we are looking at potentially taking that and expanding that nationally next year. Haven't made that business decision yet,
okay.
But the platform that we built to do it, we deliberately made sure that it was broadband agnostic and that we could deliver it anywhere. So with that,
okay.
I know that we've got to continue on with the conference, but I wanted to say thank you for your time. And Carol, I want to say thank you for giving me the time up here. And thanks again for the awards. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eric. Sorry about the video. Okay, the next big thing for TelcoTV is, of course, the opening of the expo hall, which is happening as you walk out these doors. So I would encourage